Imagine if all rules were taken away. There's no concept of punishment. You can do whatever you want to get whatever you want. It's not hard to see how easy it is for human beings to hunt each other. Because it's not consciousness, it is identification with thought. That identification can take any form. And because it is possible to derive pleasure out of pain, this is a very important aspect of the nature of reality we live in, the nature of the mind, the nature of the individual creature that we miss more often than not. We can derive pleasure out of pain. Now, right there is motive to inflict pain upon oneself and upon someone else. It is in the fundamental nature of being. It is in nature. It is in animals. You can experience pleasure through pain. Now, because it exists, there is no denying it. We've all experienced this. We know what that actually means to derive pleasure out of pain. We do it all the time. We recollect an incident. Something has happened to us, or we witnessed something. We come back to it again and again and again. And we know that coming back to this emotion, coming back to this memory is a form of torture. And yet we choose to go through that torture. That's what we call trauma. An incident has happened. If we could not deserve or derive pleasure from pain, then the word trauma would not exist. Because why would you torture yourself? What is the point? We do because we derive pleasure out of it and we don't even know it. Our minds are drawn to negativity because there's a form of amusement, there's a form of excitement, a form of pleasure that we derive out of it. It is not the consciousness that is deriving. Consciousness has no concept of any of these. It is the foundation. It is the basic awareness upon which all these things are happening. Without that fundamental awareness, without consciousness, there is no recognition of anything. There's no recognition of pain, pleasure, nothing. Because consciousness has to be there to be able to have any experience. In fact, it is so fundamental that it completely skips our mind. We don't even think about it. Most of the time when we are talking and thinking about life, we're talking about thoughts. We're not talking about consciousness itself. To talk about consciousness, we have to step away from the world of thoughts. It's a conscious process. We have to connect to a moment of silence and be there. As long as we are moving back and forth in the world of thoughts, we are skimming or skipping from one thought to another on the surface. We are not experiencing consciousness. But in that waving process, everything is possible. It need not make any sense. An individual can act in a way that can completely baffle you. They can surprise you in many different ways. Now, that is the hard part to understand. if we are all expressions of consciousness, and if consciousness is oneness, love, compassion, connectivity, then where's all this negativity coming from? Identification is what creates this negativity. Because the moment we become identified with something, now it's an addiction. It's not a choice. When an individual has become addicted to a form of pleasure seeking, and he's completely unaware of it, that he's doing it for pleasure, that's his pleasure seeking mechanism. He just wants that pleasure. He does not care about the consequences. He does not care if that pleasure is momentary. He just wants it. Look at the motive for crime. More often than not, it is this one impulsive thought process. Even if there is a form of systematic thinking involved, the starting point is always this one impulsive moment. I want this. I want to do this. It's not that they've not had other thoughts trying to drown this thought. No, this is not right. How can you do this? But the addiction is so strong. Knowing very well that the consequences of this action can put them in eternal suffering, they'll still choose to do it. And we can see this in small ways in our own lives on a daily basis. How often are we fully aware that what we are doing is not helping us, is hurting us, and we still do it? That's the whole challenge of life, right? If we have the choice, and if we can exercise the choice, then we'll cleanse out negativity and evil and violence just like that. What's the solution? The solution is there's got to be a shower, and all of us have to be under that shower. That rain has to fall on us. And that rain has to be the rain of awareness. Those drops of awareness that fall on us will cleanse the identification that we have with all kinds of idiotic pleasure seeking. Because awareness itself is pleasure. Awareness itself is joy. Being itself is bliss. Till we realize that, we will constantly be trying to seek pleasure in many different ways. And that is what every creature is doing. Everything, even a lion hunting and eating, from one point of view, you can say, well, it is eating to survive. But that's just one point of view. Another way of looking at it is deriving pleasure. It is deriving pleasure in that whole act of hunting, when it is imagining the hunt, when it is imagining tearing that gazelle apart. So it is deriving pleasure. It's not just food. It's not just going there, eating, and done. There is an emotion involved. For all you know, that is its pleasure seeking. Eating is a form of pleasure seeking, isn't it? So we all have different ways of pleasure seeking. That is why we have rules. That's what separates us from animals. Because we know our power and the source of that power. The source is ego. It is not consciousness, it is ego. And it wants to experience something. And that pleasure seeking can take many different forms. An act, let's say one individual harming another individual, let's say he's killed someone, it shows. It's easy to identify. You did this, I'm going to put you in the prison. But a lot of times, our actions, even without our own awareness, even without our own knowledge, has led to all kinds of difficulty to people. Take politicians, for example. They don't go and fight the war, but their decisions can mean life or death to an individual. But very rarely we look at a politician and say, he is a criminal. More often than not, we say, that's his job. He's making those decisions. Of course, some of his decisions will help people, some of his decisions will hurt people. The more power you have, the more power to hurt as well. But we have accepted certain forms of aggression. We have accepted certain forms of violence. But a simple, honest observation of life, a life form, its motive and what it's doing shows that violence is in it. Anger, frustration, jealousy, willingness to hurt or wanting to hurt, seeking pleasure from pain, it's all in there. What determines the degree to which you act on these thoughts, what you do with them, is your awareness. That is what maturity is. That is what learning is. Without that learning process, without that conscious intervention, mind can just take us wherever it wants to take us. And because it has no central core, it is simply acting upon the thoughts it is being influenced by in that moment. It does not see the totality of things. When it is addicted to something, it is just addicted to that. It is blind to everything else. What is the difference between consciousness and a thought? Consciousness, when you are in the present moment, when you're conscious of something, whatever you are observing in that moment of consciousness, it is putting it in perspective to the totality of existence. That is why when you're in the present moment, when you are aware of yourself, the way you act is completely different. It is impossible, I say this, it is impossible to derive pleasure out of pain when you are conscious, when you are aware, when you're in the present moment. It's impossible. Because that present moment is so much deeper, is so broad, so wide, that this thought of wanting to derive pleasure out of this one act, one thought, just completely gets drowned. Your awareness, your ability to be in the now, completely takes care of it. And this, we do this all the time. When we have to make a decision, when we know there can be real consequences to that decision, the first thing we do is we come to the now. If something scares us, we come to the now. If something disturbs us, we come to the now. And then we try to make the decision. That is what determines how we interact with thought. We come to the present moment and immediately consciousness says, in the context of totality, this act of yours is complete stupidity. Immediately it shows the reality of that act. Let's say you're wanting to kill someone. In the thought, it's there. There's no problem at all. In thought, you've actually killed them. You've gone through the whole process. But when you decide to act, let's say you go to the kitchen and pick up the knife, immediately you come to the present moment and you'll throw the knife away. Immediately. Because when you come to the present moment, consciousness sees things. It sees things in a way that you can't even imagine. It is not seeing things from your perspective. It is not seeing things from your experiences. It is seeing things from totality. Because consciousness is the totality of everything that has ever happened. And its fundamental reality is so always clear, always set, never muddled, never confused, that it can show the reality or the truth of what you're about to do. It'll just put it in perspective. It will just remind you of a simple fact that you are pleasure. This act that you're about to commit is going to put you in pain. So if you do it, you are idiotic. You are stupid. You are addicted. Then it is up to you whether to do it or not.